Hello, my name is Meryl van der Merwe, and you can hear from my accent that I am not originally an American. I am now an American citizen, but I did spend most of my life in South Africa. I traveled since I was a child. My parents took us all around the world, and I studied a lot of geography at school and have again taken my children to many different places, and I just love geography. And in this session today, I'm going to be sharing with you some ideas on how to incorporate geography into your homeschool. Now, I'm not going to be covering geography curriculum. I'm not going to be talking about different ones and which I like or don't like. To be perfectly honest, I'm not a huge fan of most of the ones we tried because I found them a little dull and boring and didn't really bring out all the good stuff that there is in geography. So instead, in this session, which I'm going to go through fairly quickly, I'm going to give you lots of different ideas, and you can pick and choose ways to integrate geography into your daily lives in homeschool and out of homeschool in a way that your children will be gradually learning more and more about geography so that they will be well equipped to understand the world around them. So I'm going to go now over to my slides, but I just wanted you to briefly see me before you got behind my slides, and I carry on the session from there. So let's get into our topic, easy ways to incorporate geography into your homeschool. Now, the first way that we're going to look at, actually, before we start the first way, I wanted to talk about some of the tools that you will need to be able to do this easily and at various different times. The first tool you need, I think, is a globe. Now, even if you have flat maps, a globe is really useful to be able to give a better idea of where things are in relation to each other. And you can find very inexpensive ones at Target and on Amazon. So just go and grab one. I think I paid about $15 for the one that we used, but there were so many times when we pulled it down and we used it. Secondly, paper maps or an atlas. And you will see as we go through this session, the different times when I will suggest that you use one of those too. So at least one of them, a big atlas of America is great, or perhaps even a couple if you can afford it, if you have multiple children. And lastly, you just need access to the internet. So that's just any device, doesn't really matter, because you need to be able to Google and look up things as you go along. Now let's go through different ways to incorporate it. The first thing I'm going to say is travel, and please don't immediately switch off and think these are going to be a whole lot of crazy ideas, that you don't have money to travel, you can't do it. I want to suggest you can, and there are so many different ways. The first is simply just doing field trips. Look and see what places you can reach around you within a day that will give your children a better idea of the geography of the state you live in, the county you live in, the counties around you, or perhaps you can even reach another state. You could also see if you can go away just on overnight camping trips. That is not terribly expensive to buy the camping equipment, or perhaps you could even borrow that. You could also just take weekends away. Travel doesn't have to be in an aeroplane. It doesn't have to be far away. There are so many places that you can explore close at home. And I would say just get out there and start doing it and have some fun. You can use apps like geocaching apps to let you have more geography fun as you wander around and explore places. This picture is of us many, many, many years ago. There was a much younger me with brown hair still. My youngest daughter is now second year college, and my oldest one is just finishing off her PhD. So you can see they have all grown a lot. But when my oldest was in 11th grade, we took the children for 7 weeks around the world trip. 2 of them were in Asia, but then the next 5 were in Europe, and this was our home. So it wasn't a terribly expensive trip. The expenses were getting there, obviously the flights, and then renting this very small RV. It was not big, you can see that. So our accommodation costs just came down to campsites. We really didn't eat out. I don't recall any meals. Maybe we had a few lunches where we bought some sandwiches, but we cooked inside the van. We did school inside the van because we actually took the children out during school time. So homeschoolers, you can do that. And it was a fantastic experience for the kids learning geography on the go while actually still doing the rest of their schoolwork. You may be able to do something like that in America. You don't have to go to Europe to do it. But you might even just do it in your car and, as I say, camping or staying in inexpensive hotels or Airbnbs. On the off seasons, you can often get really good deals, and this is not something way beyond your budget. You don't have to eat out in restaurants. You don't have to go to fancy places. And many places you go to, you don't need to actually do anything apart from wander around and explore, so you don't have to spend more money. You're welcome to reach out to me if you're wanting to know more of my tips and tricks on how to travel cheaply, and I would be happy to help you. The next thing is, however much you can travel, it's never enough unless you're one of those lucky people who road schools and literally travels in schools the whole time. So the next thing I would say is follow the adventures of others. You must have friends and family who are traveling sometimes. For us, it was my husband. He has always traveled a lot. And so when he'd be going to somewhere new, the kids and I would pull out the globe. We'd look to see where he was, the airports he was going through, and we would just follow him. We'd follow him because we were interested. He's their dad. They want to know where he is. We'd go look up pictures on the internet. That's where your phones come in. And we would just follow along and try to learn a little bit about what he was doing. He'd tell us, he'd maybe text us or email us about things where he was visiting, and we'd go and find out more about it. So use the natural opportunities of people that you know when they're going places to be curious and encourage your kids' curiosity about those places. I am now an empty nester, and I get to travel a lot more with my husband, which pretty much didn't happen while I was homeschooling, apart from that trip. And I have been, whenever I travel now, I try and take those who are following me on Instagram along with me, and I do Instagram stories. So you can find me at Funda Funda Education. I just try to post fun quizzes, cool things. I'm really aiming at the kids more than at the adults, because I'm hoping the adults who follow me are sharing this with their children and using it as an easy way to learn some geography. The next thing is world sports events. If you have children who love sports, this is a great way to teach them geography. Everything from, whether they're watching Wimbledon, Australian Open, the World Cup, soccer, Formula One racing, and of course the Olympics and many other sporting events. When you're looking at world events, they are going to be, first of all, they take place in different countries, and secondly, people from different countries are competing. So when you see, so maybe you're watching Wimbledon and you see some player from the Czech Republic, or Czechia as it's now called, you can say to your kids, do you know where that is? Make it a race. If you have a couple of atlases, or give each of them 10 seconds or 30 seconds on the globe, say who can find it fast enough, who's the quickest one. You can turn it into a fun activity. You could be standing there cooking supper and watching TV in the background and throwing out challenges to the kids and letting them try to find the answers. Of course, we've got the Summer Olympics coming up, so it's a fantastic opportunity for you to start to talk about where it is and also to talk about all the different competitors. I know that Funda Fun Academy, where I teach and where I blog, we had, for Winter Olympics, we had a bingo, and I'm going to plan to create one for the Summer Olympics too. So it's a way that the kids can play along, watch some events, and keep track of different things. It's designed to teach geography in a fun fashion. Now, learn from foreigners in your area. Now, wherever you live, you're likely to have people coming in from different places. Where we live, we have quite a number of refugee families from all around the world. And so as we've had interaction with them, it gave my children an opportunity to actually ask questions about where they come from, to ask them to show us pictures and to share about their lives. Then when my youngest daughter was in high school, we participated in something that Young Life does in our area, where they bring across a number of Spanish students from Madrid and they put them in our homes for a month. And we had the same girl come twice. And the second time she came, I was asking about, what does her home look like? What does it look? Does she live in a house? Is it an apartment block? And she said to me, well, I can show you. And I don't know why I didn't think of this before. That's why I want to share this with you. Is we got onto Google Maps, and she pulled up Google Maps. And if you've never done this before, you can even stop this recording right now and go and do it because it's so much fun. Get into Google Street View. That's what you're looking at right now on the screen. That is actually Google Street View of the house we lived in South Africa before we moved to the USA. It's the house there on the right, and that was our street, Clare Park Avenue. But once you get into Google Maps, go look for the town you're living in or whatever, you'll see a little man on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if you click on him, you will see there suddenly are blue lines on the map. You are now in Google Street View. Go click on one of those blue lines, and you will literally be able to walk the streets. You can walk around, move, you can turn left, go down that street. It's a wonderful way to explore. So ask people to take and show you, and you can also take your kids and explore anywhere with them using Google Street View. I know I like to do this with my online students. Is I will put them in Paris and give them a scavenger hunt, and they are wandering around trying to find the answers. And it's not quite the same as being there, but it's definitely second best. Thirdly, integrate geography with other subjects. You may not have time to set aside an hour or two each week to study geography, but you are probably studying history, English literature, science, and perhaps some kind of form of arts. And this is something you can do for all ages. In fact, as you'll see, this entire session really applies to different ages. So let's say you are learning about Pippi Longstocking, you're reading a book about her. You can now go and say, oh, where did she come from? Pull it up on the map. Go and have a look. If they mention a specific town, you could go to that town. You could walk around it in Google Street View. You can also use Google Cardboard. Google Cardboard is a very cheap way to experience virtual reality. So it's a cheap VR tool. You do not need to buy the Oculus Rift to do it. I can't afford that, but you can do this. And Google Cardboard, and there's various knockoffs, normally costs about $15. Some of them you can get for even cheaper. I do suggest to get that strap, as you can see in the picture, because it really helps keep it on, and you just put your phone in it. But there are quite a few experiences where you can step into a different world and walk around and see it. So for instance, I've done one where you can be in a Syrian refugee camp, and you can just see what life is like for Syrians who have fled from and are just in camps trying to make their way to a better life. But I say, obviously, even if you're doing something like ancient Egypt, you can go and see the pyramids. They're there today. You can go and either see if there's something in VR, or at least grab your atlas, show the kids where it is, perhaps go to Google Street View, whatever it is, you can actually show them. Don't just discuss battles when you're learning about them, say World War I, World War II. Pull it up. Pull up a map, have a look and see. It really will bring that subject to life, and they'll be learning geography. You might think science, well, how about science? Well, how about when you're learning about animals like marsupials? Go and look at the parts of the world where marsupials come from. And the arts, when you're learning about different artists, different musicians, anything like that, you can go and find out where they are and just add that little piece into it. Now, again, on Google Maps, there's something called Google My Maps, and this is where you can customize the Google Maps. And this relates to my previous point about how to integrate it into other subjects. You can assign your children the task of taking what they have learned, say for instance, Civil War battles, or you can see here the example is European exploration, and they can actually put that on the map. So you can put down pins, you can put little icons down, they can write brief descriptions, you can also have links, you can even put on videos. So they can make it as basically an interactive map, which they could then, share with friends and family. Of course, you could simply do this for your own vacation as well. I mean, there's plenty of different uses for Google My Maps. You can use it to plot your own vacation. You can get your children to help you plan where they want to go. They will learn geography as they do all this. So Google Maps is a really good tool to use as a project for your children to get to grips with mapping and geography. Now I'm going to talk about some apps and online games. Now you probably are familiar with the number, so I try to pick some that you may not be familiar with. I have a podcast called Homeschooling with Technology, and if you go and listen to episodes 17 and 47, you will get more ideas about different apps, because I don't have enough time today to go into all the different ones there are. You possibly are familiar with Stack the States and Stack the Countries. Stack the States is free as far as I know. Stack the Countries has, I think it's perhaps about $2.99 now. I'm not sure how much it is, but it's a fun one where children will learn both the shapes and a little bit about each of the countries, as they have to stack them up as high as they can without them toppling over. If you've never used it, it is an app, so you need to do it on a phone or an iPad. I would strongly suggest you go grab it. Every child and adult I know has enjoyed playing it. GeoGuessr is something you can play online, and it basically puts you in a location and you wander around the location. So it uses Google Street View, and you try and work out where it is and you pinpoint it on a map. But you can use context clues, and obviously you can Google. So you can walk around the area, see a word, go and look and figure out what language is it in, or you might see a building and try and work out what that is. You can just look at the terrain. It's obviously not going to be very easy for younger children, but as you grow older, you could do this as a family and see how many you can actually solve. Fan School Geopolitics is one that I dealt with. I think it's the episode 57. Maybe it was 17, I can't remember which one now, but I actually do an interview with the school teacher who created this. It is free for up to 30 students to use, so homeschoolers basically, it means it's free for you. And what you do is you go, and it's like fantasy sports games, but instead of getting yourself a team, you will instead draft countries onto your team. So it's not going to be a sports team, but a country team. So you can tell your children, and you could obviously use it in co-ops, online classes, whatever, but you can just do it with your own family, or you can get a few families together, homeschool support groups, anything like that. And you let the children go and research a little bit about different countries. And there's also one with the states, so you can do both ones. And then you draw up the draft. So however many people are playing, you enter their names, and it's very obvious what to do. The person who's running it sets it up, and then children take it in turns, and you can have adults playing as well, picking their team. So you will go, and so the first person can pick Somalia, for instance, and then the next person will come and pick Belgium, and then the third person could pick France, and so it goes down through the draft, and you decide at the beginning how many countries you want on each team. I normally do 4 when I'm doing sort of a class of about 20, because otherwise it takes too long. But obviously, if you're just a family, you could have more than that. And then you get scored points each day, how many times those countries are mentioned in the news. And the whole thing is explained well, both on my podcast, and you can just go onto their website too. But you will say you get extra points if they're mentioned positively, less points if they're mentioned negatively, and then you can see who's actually going to win, and you set a time frame, so you can do it over a month, 2 months, whatever you want. But it's a really fun way for kids to start to learn where different countries are and what's happening in countries as they follow the news. Because of course you can trade with somebody else. You can also drop your player and pick another, your player in this case, block your country, pick another country that has not been taken by anyone else. So it's not just as if you sit and you choose at the beginning, just sit and watch, but it is active and it's fun to do. And the last one I want to measure is there are now, I think, 3 Google Earth Common San Diego games. I am a big Common San Diego fan. Obviously, there are various other types of games related to her as well, and all their little videos. But Google Earth is a fun way to do it. If you just literally look at Google Earth Common San Diego, you will find them, and you can play all those 3 games together with your children. Board games, If your family likes board games, there are a number of games that are going to be fun to play, and your children won't feel like they are doing school. So this doesn't have to be during school time, but you could instead just do it on your family game night. Ticket to Ride, I have not yet managed to play, but I put it first because so many of my friends say their children absolutely love this. And this one is definitely one for older children. I'm not sure how young. I know there's junior versions of it, but it's the kind of game you can just play with friends and family, and it's just great. There is also the 10 days, and you can see here I've got the 10 days in Africa, but there's also 10 grade days in Europe, Asia. There's various different ones where you have to sort of plot a course. It's too difficult to explain here, but it is fun. I have that. In fact, I have all of these apart from Ticket to Ride. Map It is a fun mapping game with cards, and then there's the Scrambled States, which there's also a little video that goes along with it that children can watch or read the book. And the students in my co-op classes really enjoy playing Scrambled States. That one is for younger children. Then on to the GOB. Now, this is for those of you who have children who enjoy a challenge. The good thing about the GOB is it comes around once a year, and once it's done, it's done. So what we would do is I would just really have various of these ways that I've been mentioning to teach geography. When my kids were in elementary and middle school, I didn't usually have just a geography period. But when it came close to GOB, we would make some space in our day just to prepare for the GOB. Now, it's only for 4th through 8th grade, but if I had a younger one, they would just join in too, and the older ones would as well. They just provide the competition. And I would use a variety of resources. So I did buy the GOB books, and now, of course, there's a lot on the GOB site itself. There's apps, so there's a lot more available than when my children were doing it. But we would just spend time quizzing and learning, and it was just a very concentrated time that we just did it for a week or two before our local GOB. Then my one son actually managed to get to state level twice or 3 times. So then he did have to carry on working at it for a little bit longer. But it was just a fun way to get the kids to do more geography. Then you could also look at books that teach geography. If you have children who are big readers, there are a lot of books set in different countries, and they're just great books. I've just picked 4 random ones here, 2 for younger children. Madeline, of course, is set in France. And Paddington, who I just love, is set in London. And you can learn a lot about London by reading Paddington. The Breadwinner and Deborah Ellis has some other books too, are set in Afghanistan. And it's Afghanistan under the Taliban, so it is a modern Afghanistan. This is not, way back in history. And then The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, if I'm correct, that one's set in Malawi. And I have not yet read that, but I've heard so many good things about it, and it's a good one to be set in Africa. There's just plenty of others. I'm just giving you some ideas. And so these can be read not to learn geography specifically, but just read them as good books, and your children will be learning geography at the same time. Same goes with movies, and I put Paddington there first again because I really like Paddington, and I know there is a great Paddington movie, which I'm still waiting to watch. Invictus is set in South Africa. So that one, if you want to learn more about my home country, it is one that the whole family can watch, and it's a great story, and it's pretty accurate too, and you will see what life was like for me growing up. The 100-Foot Journey is one for those of you who like food, but it's just a good story, and it's an Indian family who moves to France and sets up a restaurant. So you will learn both about Indian culture and also about the French. And Children of Heaven, which doesn't have a lot of dialogue, and what it is all going to be subtitles. It's set in Iran, very beautiful story, and it will help your children to understand what it is like to live in a country like Iran. So there are a couple, and obviously you can find lists easily with many more. Just to finish up, I want to give you a few more ideas, and obviously I could keep going forever. The first is choose your own adventure books. If your children like those kind of books, the ones where at the bottom of the page it says, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? There are some that are geography related. In fact, there are common San Diego ones, but you can go and look on Amazon and you can find these. And these are ones that, depending on the choices your child makes, every time you play them will have different outcomes. If your children like jigsaw puzzles, there are plenty of jigsaw puzzles that are geography related. In fact, my youngest was complaining the other day that the only jigsaw puzzles we seemed to have were ones that were geography related. So that is actually a picture that I just grabbed two jigsaw puzzles. The one is a map of Africa and the other one is 1,000 Places to See Before I Die. And there are plenty more like that, very pretty ones, lots of map ones that are fantastic. There's also 3D ones you can make of landmarks around the world. Just go and put geography jigsaw puzzles in and you won't struggle to find things. If your children like music, they like singing geography songs. Obviously, again, this is perhaps something more for a younger crowd, but there are plenty of those that teach you the countries. My kids did not care for them, but every family is different. Look for the ways that gel with your family and your kids and do them. And then digital breakouts. If you have ever done an escape room, or you know what they are, and your children love solving those kind of puzzles, digital breakouts are like a escape room, but they're all online. And there are many that are free. You will find you can also buy them on a place like Teachers Pay Teachers. But the digital breakouts, I know there are some because I use them in my geography classes. There are some on the different states. So if you, I think I'm going to put this all in the handout that I'm going to go make you now. But I know there are some that you can do that teach you about each different state. There's one for each different of the 50 states, and that's perhaps a good place to try. But just if you Google, you're sure to find more. And then the final thing to mention here is activity books. And here I'm just saying any type of book that also teaches about geography. If you have kids or teens that love to color, obviously geography coloring books would be great. But there are also code books. There are hidden words. There are hidden characters, so that you can like literally look and find, characters in the different things. If you just go again onto Amazon, I put in geography activity books or geography puzzle books, you will see there are lots of different types. And if your children like that kind of thing, those are again ideas you can give them. And you can see a lot of these things you could really give your kids for birthday and Christmas presents, and they would have a great time and be learning geography in an easy fashion. Just want to tell you about some things that you can find. First of all, there is the mystery. These are all ones that I have created as part of Funda Funda Academy, but you can also find all of these in the actual vendor hall, and around South America in 30 days is in your swag bag. So you'll see in that you can get it at a discounted rate in the swag bag. So that is a unit study for 4th through 8th grade. You just buy it once, you can use it for all your children, and in the swag bag it's only $5. And there is 4 different modules that teaches them in a very interactive fashion, because these are web-based unit studies. It's not paper, so they can they'll be playing games, they'll be watching videos and different things, and you can obviously stretch it out for more than 4 weeks. Do it on and off whenever you feel like it. Mystery of the Painted Pyramids would really fit into your activity books category. You will find that, and it have a small discount in the vendor hall. It's modern day Egypt, but you will also learn about some of the history. So it's about the culture of Egypt now, and it is a puzzle solving one. So the kids have to find the culture culprits, again aimed at 4th through 8th grade, and they will learn the geography of Egypt as they solve different puzzles. It just comes as a PDF. And then finally, if you are looking for a geography curriculum for high school, I do have that as a part of Funda Funda Academy, and you can look into that for your children and learn more about it in the vendor hall. But that is it from me. I would love to hear from you if you found any of these useful. You're welcome to email me at any time. It's Meryl, MERYL, @fundafunda.com, and I will just get straight back to you.